Hello and welcome to Life News Now. I'm looking at probably what may be in Sir Keir Starmer's closing speech about light at the end of the tunnel. So, I mean, effectively, there must be a shared struggle through tough short-term pressures, but I think some of them probably have to be really thought through because they could cause a detriment to a particular area of people as well as stoke inflation. So, I mean, wants to build a new Britain with faster economic growth, shorter hospital waiting lists, and safer streets, which is a hard task to do. But will he harm the electorate? But he will warn there are no easy answers and not offer false hope about the challenges ahead. Well, money doesn't always solve the issue. So he said it's going to be, I think the word painful, but it's going to be tough in the short term. So the measures will include a crackdown on benefit fraudsters aimed at saving 1.6 billion over 5 years. Well, that needs boots on the ground, which are you going to get rid of them after 5 years, or are you going to consume him under the weight of government? A commitment to reduce net migration by training Britons to fill vacancies in the job market, rather than allowing employers to rely on overseas labour. I mean, effectively, people living in the UK, as Britons, they're here for the long haul. I mean, they're here through education, through a long and hopeful, fruitful career, and then retirement. And frankly, these rates are too small. I mean, they're sufficient for people who coming from abroad where it's a lot cheaper, do the job, and because they know they're going to build a war chest, work here for 5-10 years and return home and have lots of money to sort of buy a number of properties or buy hotels or a business that they can run. So I think there is a lot of educated people. It's just that the employers don't understand that an individual can segue into a lot of these roles with minimal training. I think that is to have an emphasis to actually employ individuals who are at a point where they need to sort of segue and have an incentive where the employers are incentivized to bringing those people into their labor force. So I promised to introduce a Hillsborough law requiring a duty of candour for public officials. I mean, I think it is there. It just needs to be explicit, but not spend an absolute fortune trying to sort of determine and implement. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what the candour should be for public officials. Set out his positive vision of national renewal, but the speech comes against a backdrop of anger within the Labour movement about the decision to means test winter fuel payments, stripping them from millions of pensioners. I think also we probably need to wait for the autumn statement, where there's probably more pain and suffering to the individuals who do not have the means to actually pay more effectively. National renewal. I mean, that could be a multitude of things. This decision, along with infighting behind the scenes in Number 10 and rows over donations to Sir Keir and other senior Labour figures, has contributed to a party conference with a more subdued mood than might have been expected after July's election landslide. Well, I suppose it's sort of most people are looking at, and you know, worse than the previous mob. Um, and the thing is that to have a policy which, whole thing about having policies is that they're not always going to be completely correct and if they're not implemented correctly. The best thing to do, winter fuel allowance, we'll say, okay, we are going to pay that amount out, but we're going to collect it from the tax returns next April, so that those people who have enough money to heat and eat, they can pay it back. Those people that are means tested, the ceiling should be increased, and it means that something can be implemented to be initiated in the next year. So to identify those particular individuals who can be marked to not be given this, or just have a situation where everybody is given it and then there's a clawback. And at the same time, there may be a lot of individuals who aren't paying the sufficient tax for what they're doing. Sir Keir will use his speech to acknowledge that many voters were motivated by despair at the Tories, and warn his party that it needs to deliver decisive government without putting a heavy tax burden on workers, which will mean reforming public services. Well, it's what the definition of workers is, because I think the definition is any worker that is a union member or earns less than £30,000. But there's too much of this freebies, and because of the freebies, a lot of people have concentrated on Sir Keir's other offices, and I think a lot of his other duties have been wanting. So that could be the issue. I mean, here, this photo call is probably pretty bad, sitting on some steps, pretty dirty steps. They can't even offer some sort of proper chair or things like that. I know this country is exhausted. Well, it's probably exhausted by, or will be, by the inflation, food inflation, energy and inflation. I'm not entirely sure that a lot of what they're doing will not inflate inflation. And I think to have a total green policy on the energy, where lots of other countries are moving to new age nuclear, um, we won't have the amount of space for solar panels. Um, the energy they get will be a lot less than they think because we have lots of cloudy days. There'll be elements that a vast majority of them won't work, and they'll probably need replacing at least every 5 years. The the main issue, which isn't being talked about, is to create an infrastructure so that the energy can be transported around a new grid, and certain places will be engineered as massive batteries so we can generate the energy during the week, during the day, and have that all stored for periods at the weekend and at night. Our objective has not and never will change. I changed the Labour Party to restore it to the service of working people. That definition needs to be coming out, and this is exactly what we're going to do for Britain. So thank you very much for watching. I think the thing is that a lot of these policies need to be reviewed because they're over ambitious and simple back of a beer mat calculations. They can't be made, and there's a lot of things missing. And I think the electorate are sick and tired of taking money out of their pocket rather than the state and government, automating and tightening their belts. So thank you very much for your time. Please subscribe, comment, and share this video. And in the show notes, I've got sponsorship and donation links. So thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Bye.